The Seer's proverb of the day is, "Don't look a gift horse in the mouth." Don't look at the horse. Don't even think about it. Show no signs of fear. This is a test from the gods. They are watching, and they see all. Welcome to Mount Olympus. Welcome back, dear listeners, to Mount Olympus. I'm your host, Teresias, the 7th generation Seer. Those of you who are new, you may not know me, but I know you. Despite being blind, I see and know many things. And yet, despite correctly giving accurate visions and advice for 7 generations, some people choose not to believe me. Listeners, I'm afraid I must apologize to you all for my last report in Thebes. I didn't mean to tell Olympus the truth, really. He forced me to. I was called to his palace to help in his investigation of the murder. I warned him he really didn't want to know. He really didn't. But I'm afraid I was a bit unprofessional. Oedipus's comments about my prophetic abilities got to me. As a prophet, my duty is to report visions to you, the listening public, as an unbiased source. But I'm afraid I let my professional demeanor slip a little bit when he called me a second-rate prophet. "You kiss your mother with that mouth!" I shouted back. He wasn't very happy about that revelation. But that's none of my business. Moving on to the news. Those of you following the succession war happening at Thebes will be interested to hear that it has come to a rather tragic end, with the brothers Polynices and Eteocles killing each other in a fatal combat. In the event of both their deaths, Creon has been declared as the new king of Thebes. And in a controversial first proclamation as king, Creon has declared that Polynices shall not be buried, as he was unlawfully seeking the throne. I wonder how the remaining family members will take that. But first, a word from our sponsor. Are you deeply and fundamentally terrified of the gods? Constantly afraid of having your day ruined for no apparent reason? Scared that you might just suddenly be struck down by some god on a murderous rampage? Have you considered murder? That's right. Ritual sacrifice is the new technique used to appease all the gods and ensure that you, yes you, won't randomly be turned into a cow, a tree, or have some terrible horrifying punishment simply because the gods got bored. Just take a small animal and burn it over an altar to appease your chosen god. The smoke of the burning animal will travel to Olympus to be consumed by the gods. Nothing like burnt goat to calm a raging Olympian. Animal sacrifice for all your godly needs. As predicted earlier in the show, Antigone, the younger sister of Polynices, is unhappy at the royal decree that he will not be given a proper burial, or any burial at all. Creon's first royal decree is to go against all traditions and basic human decency and leave a corpse lying on a battlefield. Understandably, Antigone has staged numerous public protests against this ruling, with signposts saying things like, "The gods are on my side," and "Human burial is a human right." You go, Antigone. Take that, establishment. The public, however, is divided over this family disagreement. To bury or not to bury? That is the question, to which we will have to wait for the answer. King Creon, meanwhile, has refused to comment on the Antigone situation. Today he has been seen leaving his palace, although no one can say where he is going. Except me, of course. In fact, I can predict we will have our answer right now. Creon! Come in, sit down. I've just put on a pot of tea.
Wait, how did you know I was coming? I didn't tell anyone. I snuck out of the palace.
I have my ways. I see things, you know. For a blind guy.
Really?
So, what can I do for you today? Perhaps some tips on managing work-life balance or spending quality time with your family?
Well, as you may have heard, or perhaps seen, I've received some rather public criticism, and I was hoping for some informed advice.
I have heard of that, yes. Well, for starters, imprisoning Antigone was definitely not the best decision you could have made. I don't see that going well for you, personally.
What are you saying? I should have just let her criticize the king and the crown? It's important to send a message of strong leadership.
Strong leadership is good, but so is not imprisoning family members. She's engaged to your son. The city loves love, and you getting in the way of that will not go well.
It doesn't matter. There's her sister, Ismene. If it doesn't work out, he can marry her instead.
Wow. Still, don't you think that being so new to power, maybe you should try and get the people on your side? Current polls suggest that the city supports Antigone, not you.
Do they now?
Yes, they do.
Excuse me, I'm afraid I have to go. That's all the time I can spare today.
Just be warned. I don't see this going well for you, and I see a lot of things.
And I don't see this podcast going well if you keep making such inflammatory remarks.
Well, listeners, don't say I didn't try. Listeners, I have just received new information from myself that Zeus may be in the area. The details are vague, but I'm getting a strong sense of cow. I would advise any and all listeners to be on the alert, particularly if you own cattle. Zeus is known to have fascinations with things, and in this case, it's cows. Who knows what he could be doing out there? I do, but I don't want to. As a precautionary measure, I would advise sacrificing a cow to Hera. She's sure to appreciate it, and you can prevent a sudden visit from Zeus. Everyone's happy. Well, not happy, but safe. Safe is good. Stay safe, listeners. So, welcome back to our segment, Guess the Future, with our guest, Calchus.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
You don't look very confident. You shouldn't. This segment never ends well. No one has ever correctly guessed anything.
Yeah, no, I've listened to the podcast and I'll have a go.
Well, that's all we ask for you. So, let's start out easy. Guess the future. What am I having for dinner?
Fish?
Correct. Hey!
Cool.
You're starting off well. Good
nice.
job. Let's try something a little more difficult, okay?
Okay.
Have you been following our recent political stories of the Antigone and Creon debate?
A little bit. I'm maybe not quite up to date, but a little.
Okay, cool. Now, do you think Polynices will be buried or not in the future?
Well, I know Antigone wants him to be buried. Maybe?
You can't say maybe. Will he be buried or not?
I think he will. I think she'll break the law and just do it.
You think she'll just do it? Okay.
Yeah.
And as a final question, how many people are going to die today?
What? Which people? Just like anyone? I guess, like a few? I don't know.
Do you want to give me
In all of Thebes, like
maybe
a dozen?
In the royal family?
Well, I hope it's zero. Like, what do you mean in the royal family?
I
Is
could
something
think of
wrong?
a
Are they gonna...
certain member of the royal family who I wouldn't mind dying?
Isn't that treason? Like...
I've got 7 generations left to live. I'll be fine. Just give me a number.
In the royal family, I'm gonna... 1.
1.
Yeah.
I love your optimism. Wonderful. And just to round it off, who do you think's gonna win the chariot race on the end of the week?
I don't know. I haven't been following the chariot racing so much this season. I can't remember who's in this one. There's that... Is it Hector? I remember him. He's...
Yeah, Hector's
he races
doing
a good
good.
chariot. I think he'll be him.
You think
There we
Hector?
go. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Your predictions have been adequately entertaining.
Rude? I thought I did okay. I got one right. I got the fish thing.
Everyone eats fish, couch ass.
Then why did you ask it?
Because I thought it would be a true test of your character.
Fine. Maybe I'll go see the Oracle next week instead.
I predict you're going to have a terrible week. In fact, I predict you're going to leave my studio right now.
Well, yeah, the segment's over.
Bye-bye. And now, the weather. Friday is looking like it will be heavily overcast and melancholy until about 3:04 p.m., at which point a consistent drizzle will start up and hang around until the end of the day. A great day for some kind of somber event, particularly involving large crowds standing outside mournfully and perhaps a slow procession. The heavy cloud cover will set the tone quite nicely. Saturday and Sunday will be snowy. I strongly advise not leaving the house at all. Perhaps stay inside and think over your life events. The snow should clear up by Sunday evening. Monday looks wonderfully clear and sunny. An ideal day to be out and about, perhaps on a nice date with the city's newest eligible bachelor. Because, as we all know, it's bad for the king to be without a wife. Political uncertainty and all that. Not that anything will happen to Eurydice. I didn't say anything like that, of course not. Who would say such a thing? As per usual, all predictions are considered void in the event of a divine intervention, as Zeus never responds to my letters asking if he's planning any storms or temper tantrums for the week. This has been the weather. Dear listeners, things have come to a rather tragic end. It appears that after our chat, Creon, inspired by my words, joined with his son Hamian to head to the prison to absolve Antigone of her crimes and set her free. But upon their arrival, they found her dead by her own hand, in apparent despair at the fate of her and her family. Creon drew his sword to cut her down from where she hung, but Hamian, distraught at the sight of his dead fiancée, ran himself through on his own father's blade. This still isn't the end of the tragic events of the day, as the messenger took the news of Hamian's death back to his mother, who, overcome with the pain of this loss, killed herself as well.
This whole week, listeners, this whole day has been like some sick, saddest, tragic play. Who would write such a thing? Who would do such a thing? Who would pay to watch such a thing?
Dear listeners, I'm afraid that's all we have time for this week. I predict I'll see you all very soon. Until then, remember that blood is thicker than water. Family is stronger than friends. Unless you're a royal family, in which case, run away. Don't trust your family. It doesn't end well. Good night, dear listeners. Good night.